Right now you're hearing sounds of my new Ableton Live pack, Air Organ. Air Organ is 24 Ableton Live instrument racks, all created with samples of a vintage General Electric Air Organ. You can get this pack for sale in my store, brianfunk.com/store, or if you join the Music Production Club during the month of June 2020, this is the download of the month. And your membership gets you the download of the month every month. You get some other additional downloads, access to our Discord channel where we can talk about music making, as well as some Zoom meetings that we do. That is available at brianfunk.com/MPC. Thanks a lot for your support and enjoy the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Music Production Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Funk. On today's show, I have a special guest. It's Ned Rush. Ned Rush. He is an interesting character in the music production world. He's producing Max for Live patches, really cool stuff. A lot of great glitch and video stuff that you can find on his Isotonik site, and he's got a Gumroad as well. Some cool music. He's putting together an online music festival, and we've kind of like brushed against each other in the internet world many a times. And now is really the first chance we've had to actually sit down and talk. So I'm looking forward to that very much. And welcome to the show, sir. Good to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you've been around doing this music production online game with the YouTube channel and the devices for quite a while, right?
Yes. Well, last year was my 10th year on YouTube.
Wow.
So,
congratulations.
Which is basically dinosaur in YouTube years.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
So, and I nearly forgot. I kind of forgot. Somehow I remembered and I sort of went, hang on, it's my 10th year this year. I should celebrate. And then I kind of did. But no big deal. But yeah, so I've been doing that for quite some time. Not long after I started putting out the Max for Live stuff, and I've just kind of been hacking away at that, I suppose, ever since. And I suppose that's mostly what I'm recognised for, perhaps, at least as a name.
I think I first came across your stuff with the World Collection with Isotonik, the video stuff. Which is super cool because you can just drop these devices in live and they will either create visuals for you or take your own videos or pictures and morph them, and you can have it all interact with the music and automate everything, which, you know, it's like, I think a lot of people that are into like live performance really want that aspect, especially I think with electronic music where sometimes it might look like someone's just kind of, you know, checking email or twiddling knobs. It doesn't always have the same like physical expression as like say a rock band can have. So it's cool
certainly.
You supply that for people to have a way to add that layer of visual interest to their show.
Yeah, and certainly now it's probably more certainly a bit more relevant and needed whilst everyone's streaming from home, because as you say, using a mouse pad is not a particularly engaging experience for an audience member, and so incorporating media is kind of the next step. I mean, it extends the horizons of the creative side and the artistic side, but it also provides like a bit of a a backdrop, I suppose, to what is, I guess, for some people a little bit of a challenging thing to come to terms with of whether they're having like an authentic experience when they go to a show, you know.
Yeah.
I think that although I've been to plenty of shows where they've turned off all the lights and it's been pitch black and I've had a great time, you know, but I think that it's not a particularly always an enthralling thing for an audience member to get invested in when someone's kind of just staring at equipment, So, yeah. I mean, you see it everywhere now. I mean, I watched a couple of years ago, or was it last year, or maybe the year before, I watched the Chemical Brothers at Glastonbury on television, like live. And it's like insane, the type of visuals that they have. They're okay, the Chemical Brothers, like they're all right. But just in terms of like what it was providing as an embellishment to the whole thing for the audience, who are, half a mile away. I mean, it's a problem, I think, that both maybe, I don't know if it's a real problem or if it's an imaginary problem, like for artists and audience members alike, that people maybe expect more from a performance, and when that performance cannot be delivered, you kind of need to placate that a little bit, and so having some media as part of it helps. I mean, and also that could kind of be like maybe an anxiety for a performer. It's like I'm worried that I'm not doing enough of a performance. Everyone's going to walk out because I'm not doing anything. So I either use body language, which is fine, or I have something immersive to embellish the experience.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know why Ableton can't just develop these things themselves. I mean, like, it's what they want the software to be, a performance thing. Like, I don't know why they've never really thought about bringing in more multimedia into it. I mean, you can do it a little bit. You can incorporate video and stuff like that. But yeah, so I kind of just started fiddling around with visuals in Max, and then thought, I wonder if I could get this into Max for Live, and then, what I could do with it. And then I started to think, this is actually working really well, and there's lots of possibilities here. And then I started connecting with people who are doing the same sort of thing and sort of chatting with them. And then we put some stuff out, and then we put out this one device that was just one kind of audio analyzer, visualizer thing. And the first thing that people came back and said was, can I use like more than one? And I was like, oh no, you can't. Sorry, you can only use one at a time. So then we kind of thought, how do we do that? And then we got a bunch of us together, and we started talking about how can we make some sort of connection system between devices, where we've got like a main hub which receives all the information, and then you can add all these various things, and then they all look to this one window, and then you can mix elements in and out. And it started to get quite interesting, like in terms of, you could have like, you could put like certain devices on auxiliary sends in Ableton, and then you could like choose which element of your set you wanted to send to the visualizer. So you could have like one thing on your kick, one thing on your snare, and then you could start positioning them. And it was a pretty good project, and we pulled in like loads of people from all over the world, and we all kind of like, everyone came together, and we sort of tried to develop it in a way that people could keep adding to it. It was there was room for more things to be introduced in the future. This was some years ago now, and I've not looked at the project since. I have no idea what kind of state it's in now or who's working on it. But
it's
at
cool.
the time, it was, yeah.
You're referring to the World Collection, right?
The World Collection, yeah.
Just so people know.
There are other things now. There's Ebo Suite, which I think is it was either on Isotonik and it's not anymore, or it still is. And that's like equally just a fantastic light environment. Just it's probably about as close to just using Ableton in terms of just being able to drag and drop stuff and get things going quickly as you can get for video. So
yeah, the drum racks and the sampler that they have is pretty neat. So
I haven't had a go on it yet, but I've watched the videos.
A little experience, a little bit of the videos, and I sat down with one of the developers for a little meeting too. I guess my holdout has just been that there's just so much to do, and that's a whole other aspect of, it's like another hobby, another job aside from music production is the whole video thing. But it is nice that stuff like what you've got with the World Collection and what Evil Suite has, and there's a couple others that are pretty neat that make it a little more automatic into your workflow, and you can kind of set it and forget it a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's either sort of something. I'm working on something right now for myself that's like a visualizer, and I'm kind of developing it in a sense that I can just leave it running in the background, because I've been using it quite a lot for shows over the last couple of years, where I was just using the computer just for the visuals and I was doing everything else on hardware. And I found that I would kind of make a setting on it and then leave it, forget about it, and then look back and see what it was doing and realize, oh shit, it's been doing nothing but a black square for the last 5 minutes. And so I kind of I need to maybe have something where I can just kind of click a few buttons and have like the crazy button, the mellow button, or whatever. And then I know that whatever so it's all kind of more macroed. But also it's flexible in a sense on a user interface level, that if I just want to use it standalone, like if I want to give it my full attention in a performance, then I've got lots of flexibility. Or if I can't, then it can just run in the background and do something that's not a black square. I think for like a solo performer, a solo laptop performer, that's quite a lot you've got enough to worry about with your set anyway. Like having to worry about visuals as well is maybe a bit much for some people.
Yeah, I've experimented a little. At one point I was using Resolume, which is super cool. It's a lot like Ableton Live in the way it runs, and even MIDI mapping is pretty simple. So I did have it going for a little while, but I'd have this thing you're talking about where you kind of turn around and like everything's just white. Like it all the effects kind of all came on at once, and they all like feed back into each other, and you just get white light.
Yeah.
So it's a lot to think about when you're playing. I mean, even when you just go out to play without visuals, you're immediately met with all other kinds of variables that you don't get at home when you're practicing. The people that are there, the whatever's going on with your sound system and your monitoring system, and it's just all kinds of chaos that you didn't expect, and then to have that other thing, it's a lot to think about.
Yeah, it is. And then like you get to like a gig and they've got the projector, and it's some VGA projector from 1998, and you're like, oh, I can't plug into that because I've got an HDMI cable, because it's the 21st century now. Or stuff like that.
I need a 75-foot one to reach it. I've had that too, where it's like, we got a projector, but that's in the back of the room, and your computer's in the front of the room. So
I tell you what, go a 20 meter HDMI cable is an investment.
Yeah.
Like get it and roll it up and keep it in your cupboard, and then get it out when you need it, and then you'll never have to worry about that.
That's funny.
But yeah.
So what's your like background in music? Did you start with like hardware, electronic stuff? Did you come up playing instruments or anything? How'd you get involved in all that stuff? Because even like the Macs, that's like a programming background, maybe even. Is that where you come from?
No.
I like
how far
that,
back do you want to go? What's that? Sorry.
Oh, I like to hear that. Just it makes this stuff sound a little more accessible. You know.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not a computer programming nerd at all. Like it. Apart from like some light PC gaming as a teenager and a bit of desktop publishing, I don't know the first thing really. But I mean, I know more about them now than I did. But no, I mean, how far back do you want to go? I started playing guitar as a teenager in the early 90s. And then by the end of the 90s, I got a little bit disenfranchised with guitar music. Got a little bit bored, which not to say that guitar music was boring at the time. I just wasn't really working hard enough to seek out stuff that I liked.
Yeah.
It was all getting quite samey and limited. And so I was at a college studying jazz and didn't really like it, dropped out, came home, didn't know what to do, called up a friend of mine who was into making music on his computer with trackers.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I think I want to make music on computers, maybe. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm at a loose end, you know. I like computers. I played like Duke Nukem 3D on the computer. Like, computers are all right. And so he basically just sort of gave me a load of like demos or like pirates or whatever. And it kind of started there, really. And round about that time, I was really starting to hear electronic music like properly. Because I think before that, coming from a kind of teenaged rockist purism, I maybe had this subconscious prejudice that electronic music was all fake.
I had the same thing. I really did.
Like the old keyboards, the synths are all fake, and drum machines just fake. They're just pressing play. And then like 20 years later, that's what I'm doing, pressing play. But at the time, I think, I guess that's kind of a young person's naivety. And then when I started to hear some stuff that wasn't what I'd heard at that point, I was like, oh, hang on a minute. Like, this is like really, really great. Like, I feel really good listening to this. And like, I the fact that like sampled drums, breakbeats had a lot to do with that. That was a real push because I was into like funk and jazz at the time, 70s stuff, Herbie Hancock and that. So I was hearing those types of things in some of the music that I was discovering. And that really kind of sealed the deal for me. I was like, oh, wow, what a brilliant idea. You can like get a drum loop and then like reprogram it so it sounds like a drum solo. Like, yeah, I want to get into that. And then I did, and I'm still doing that now, pretty much.
Yeah, I had the same kind of feelings as a kid, as a guitar player, that, kind of like if music had a drum machine, it was like a deal breaker. And it was funny, and like the hypocritical side is a lot of the music I enjoyed had some of those elements. They had synths, they had some drum machines and electronic things going on. I was just too dumb to know. But I had this like kind of like box on it. But I think it was like just being exposed to newer music, different music that was maybe I was surprised to learn was doing some of that stuff. And then I started to warm up to it. And like you, now I'm surrounded with machines that I can sequence.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I barely really play the guitar. I mean, I've actually been playing the guitar a lot recently. I'd say in the last couple of years, because I'm trying to make some music that has guitars in. But I probably played it more in those sort of 6 to 7 years in the 90s then than I have in the last 20 years. I think also what happens is that everyone's kind of got like a first instrument that's kind of where their vocabulary is, and then they translate that vocabulary to other things. that they can somehow use as a way to legitimize their exploration of something, you know. So, you know, if you know your way around a guitar fretboard, you can find your way around a keyboard pretty easily, and therefore you can experiment with synthesizers in a way that's like musical to you or to anyone. And so, yeah, the guitar is my first instrument, but it's not in any way for me now a thing that I particularly identify with. It's more like an instrument in that sense that if I need it for something or if I want it for something, then I'll grab it, but I don't need it all the time, you know. It's not like the be all and end all of my musical expression, I suppose. So
yeah. Well, for me, it was for so long, and every time I think when I'm doing it, using any kind of instrument, I'm always sort of translating it into guitar language, as if I was, you know, trying to listen to someone speak Spanish, and I'm not really understanding the words in Spanish. I'm just changing them into the English words I know. I think there's a lot of that happens. But I've been on a kick with the guitar lately. I think just because I love that you can just pick it up and play it. You grab your acoustic guitar and there's no wires, there's no connection, there's no power buttons, and it just plays. And there have been times where I've picked that thing up recently and I've just been like, wow, this is incredible. Everything else that I make music with is so complicated and has, you know, all these things you got to do before you can actually get anything out of it. There's something nice too about, I think like electronic music and synthesizers and things like that. You're almost always recording it. You know, for me at least, the way I work is pretty much in the box with maybe some hardware going into it or MIDI controllers, but the record thing is always happening and you're kind of always thinking that way. But with the guitar, you can just kind of let it be its thing in the moment, and it goes away. And there's something kind of cool about that too.
Yeah, I mean, especially with something that's kind of either your first instrument or just something that you're very good at, you get into that area where it's just kind of an extension of your body, you know. And so like you don't really, you know, you play the thing, you play it, you don't use it for music. You pick it up and you just spend some time with it and you run through the muscles and the brain and you play things without thinking, or you think about it. And yeah, it doesn't have to mean anything. It can just be like just some quality time.
Yeah.
But I do have moments like that similarly, where like I used to kind of have a guitar by my computer, so that if I was waiting for something to load or render or whatever, I'd kind of just pick it up and just sort of noodle on it whilst I was waiting for a task to finish.
That's cool.
But I am like now, I've been trying to get back into it, and I've got like some songs I want to record that I want to have lots of guitar in for the tone of it. And so I am spending a little bit more time with it, and also kind of like watching more guitar stuff on YouTube that I've not been interested in. Like I'm not like a big pedal person these days, but there's a couple of like nice guitar pedal channels I like to watch, and you know, the music all sounds the same. Like it hasn't changed. Like it still sounds the same as it did 20 years ago. Like I haven't really been particularly blown away still by that much guitar music in terms of like it really taking the instrument anywhere. If you know what I mean. It feels a little bit stuck. And that's okay sometimes if you want to maybe indulge in that. When I pick up one of my guitars, I kind of feel a little bit like I'm going back to the past a little bit.
Right.
And I guess that could be to do with my association that I have with it, the type of skills and technique that I have, but also just because I got to a point where I just thought, I don't really know, without using a shitload of effects, how can I make this sound interesting and unlike anything I've heard, or how can anyone, for that matter? So that's generally how I feel, but also that's kind of the motivation towards some of these songs that I want to record that have guitar in, which was kind of what an idea that stayed with me when I started getting into doing computer music in the first place was, it would be great to use the computer to screw the guitar up, like really screw it up in a sonic way, but also in a kind of pseudo destroying the identity kind of way. And then I never really got round to it. So I'm kind of, when I can, I sort of plug it in, dial in some sounds on some stuff. And I'm just trying to record like loads of like libraries, just like stupid libraries of either like chords, like entire scales, little noises, one shot riffy things or whatever, and then forget about them. And then when I remember them, open up a session, pull them in and go, what have I got here? And then take something and try and make something with it. Like a kind of self-sampling.
Yeah.
Accessing my own self-sample library and kind of seeing what I could do with it. And then maybe a song will come out of that, and then that will form some identity that I can then take further with some actual real playing where I'm a little bit more invested and being a bit more creative and taking it a bit more seriously, and sort of, because I do like composing on the guitar. I do like when I find an idea, whether it's a chord progression or something, and I work at it. I do really like that, and I wouldn't want to ever change that. But in terms of it as a kind of sonic palette, I'm maybe a little bit more interested in other things more, shall we say? So.
Well,
yeah.
Electric guitar is a little interesting now that you got me thinking about it, because it's been kind of like developed alongside like rock and roll, for instance, and it was so core to like all the different movements in rock and roll and all of the ways guitar has been like processed and treated over the years. It's always been the type of instrument that you like processed, I guess is the word. You either put distortion on or reverbs or choruses or all kinds of different effects to achieve new tones. But an instrument like the piano is much less so treated that way. You don't see as people putting pedals on pianos as much, and the tone of the piano isn't like this narrative like the electric guitar as much, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that's interesting. I mean, I guess that could be because the piano has got so much of an identity in certain contexts that's what people reach for or expect when they think to use a piano or listen to some piano music. Is that it's got its own, it's evocative. In the same way that, like, a violin can be, or an orchestra can be, and I guess people who pursue it seriously pursue it for those reasons rather than more destructive ones, I suppose. I don't know. I mean, it's the, yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's like a lot of kinds of guitar players where, some of them are like more like, they might not be known as for maybe like shredding, but they're like virtuosic with their tones and the way they control the feedback, or it's like a different type of art. It's like partially sound design, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that for me, the guitar players that I have either stayed with me or that I'm revisiting are probably the ones that are more interesting to me in terms of their own personal identity, in terms of their technique, you know. Whereas I think maybe on a sound design level, I'd probably gravitate towards other things. And so, yeah, I mean, there's a familiarity to it, in the same way, like I was saying about the piano, you know, that I think I probably need to be in the right mood for. Whereas when it comes to certain types of electronics, it doesn't really matter what mood I'm in. I'm up for it. You know? But like, I don't know. It might change. Like I say, I've been playing more guitar now, and it just feels like business as usual. You know, It's not like when I sort of step to the Eurorack and I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
I have no idea. You know. And that's partly because of the fact that I don't entirely know what I'm doing yet. Whereas on the guitar, I'm kind of confident enough to go, if I do this, this is going to turn out okay, you know. And I guess maybe it's to do with risks. I think like maybe for me personally, there's just not a huge amount worth exploring in music if there's not an element of risk somewhere. You know, and I guess maybe the electric guitar became a little bit just not risky for me anymore, you know.
That's interesting. Yeah, a lot of what I like about doing more electronic things is the surprise of it. You know, sampling things and just, you know, what's going to happen this time is so fun to me that it just never seems to get old.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
But you're right, like a guitar, I guess I turn to when I kind of know what I'm looking for a little more.
I mean, there are certain things that like the guitar has always been very good at that it's very hard to recreate with synthesizers, like feedback. And I've kind of nailed it. I've synthesized a nice feedback that I'm kind of like, actually, this is better because I've got more control. It's more predictable. And the thing is with feedback is that it's quite unpredictable, which is good in some ways because it can do something sometimes and you're like, it's just hit that perfect note and you're like, that's the note, that overtone right there, that's the one I need for my track, you know. But that's kind of a little bit hard to do sometimes in a small bedroom.
Yeah, it's true. You need the noise.
You need the noise, yeah.
You have an awesome video. I actually have it up because I wanted to talk about it with you a little bit. The howling feedback without a guitar video.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
a couple months ago. You have Operator, which is an FM synthesizer, running into some delay and then an amp and a cabinet and live. And I just thought it was a really cool take on it where because something that happens to the feedback on a guitar is it kind of morphs and like new tones and overtones and like harmonic things happen as you let that distortion kind of keep ringing out. You might start off strumming like a very low, like open E chord, but by the time the feedback has a couple seconds of doing its magic, it's a high pitched, piercing sound.
Yeah. And the vibrations that the vibrations and the resonance are totally circumstantial to where you are and the size of the room and where you're standing. And like, you know, one type of vibration might vibrate one string on one harmonic a certain way, you know, and, you know, that's all the good stuff, but it's very, very hard to control in an environment where you need that. You're trying to get something. It's like, I need that sound right now. And that's, you know, when you're at a gig, it like doesn't really matter. If you're playing guitar at a gig and it's like, I don't care what how the feedback turns out because it's feedback. I'm making a statement with this feedback. But when you're making when you're making a track or a record, for me personally, I'm like, no, it needs to be pretty dead on.
Right.
So
there is such a joy though when you've got your guitar, you know, strapped on and you're like manipulating it in front of the amplifier and trying to figure out the exact angle to hold it. and you know, how to maybe shake it a little to just get it to kind of open. It's a really fun physical type of playing, and that's something that sometimes I miss a lot with my knob twiddling and my button pushing is with the guitar, with the drum set, you know, even vocals, you can move around and get your body into it. The physicality of music is a lot of fun, and I think I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, I think it's you know, when you're with other people, when you're in a band, like, and everyone has that kind of collective visceral physicality and the sharedness of it, it's quite unlike anything really. It beats doing stuff on your own for sure. But I haven't played in a band for a while, but I do like playing in bands for that thing, is that shared energy, you know. And you know, because it does happen. There are moments like that when everyone's just locked, and you're like, yeah, we're the fucking best band in the world right now. You know, it's like it's good, but
that is just, there's a magic that happens sometimes where you just find it, and you know, you can look at the people you're playing with and like just kind of smile, and it's amazingly physical. And I think too, something that comes along with that is just like you said, with this type of music, you kind of just have to play it loud. You've got a drummer banging away, so you've got to accommodate to that volume at the very least. So you've got this like energy of just these powerful sound waves going through your body.
And it pushes you. It literally pushes you, or you can like lean on it. You know, you can feel it like kind of. It is good.
Yeah, and it also just kind of gets in front of every other sense you have. It's so loud you can't hear anything else, and it distorts your sense of touch, and everything is affected in such a cool way.
Certainly.
I miss it. I can't wait to get together with some people to play some live music again. Just, it doesn't even have to sound cool. Just
well, I'm the same. I'm feeling that way a bit, having been spending, as we've been in lockdown, I've been sort of like trying to find ways to amuse myself, and I've sort of been playing a bit of guitar, a bit of drums, a bit of bass, and you know, just sort of trying to, mostly just to motivate myself to try and get these songs up and running. But it's doing it on your own is kind of a bit like, after a while you're a bit like, I wish I had like some friends to do this with.
You know, I've been thinking about a story, Into the Wild. It's a story of Christopher McCandless, who renames himself Alex Supertramp, and he travels. He graduates college with honors. He's got money in the bank. He's in like a great situation in life. You know, if you're a kid, like, you know, following the traditional path, he's where you'd love to be, you know. And at this point in his life, he kind of is disenfranchised with everything and burns his money and ditches his car and just starts walking across America and living this like nomadic life. He also he lets go of personal relationships too, you know, in this sort of like self-reliance, kind of like Emerson Thoreau thing, where he's, you know, a man of nature. But all right. Anyway, he winds up dying in Alaska. That's a sad ending. But one thing he writes in his book, like, he's having this incredible journey, and it's, you know, it is inspiring in a lot of ways. But at the end of the book, he's like, as he's like kind of dying, he's writing in his journal like, happiness is only real when shared, is what he writes down. And I've had this like thought come to my head so many times in this lockdown, where like I'm having a lot of fun, and then I'm like, I just wish I had someone to turn to like smile at while I'm doing it, you know, and just to say like, isn't this great? Isn't this nice? You know? But
yeah, I can appreciate that. Yeah.
It's going to be nice. It's going to be like triumphant. And, you know, we're starting to come around here a little bit where I am in New York, where things are slowly opening, and you know, might see a friend actually outside if the weather holds up this weekend. So I look forward to that.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I haven't really done anything like that apart from family.
I haven't either. And really it was not much with family either. It's been a while. It's going to be nice.
Yeah, I'm glad. It hasn't bothered me a huge amount because I don't mind my own company too much. But every once in a while I do kind of think like, oh damn, I need some irreverent conversation right now. You know?
Yeah, I think I'm good at this. I do. I think I'm good at isolating and being alone, but this has been a good experience for me to also remember like the importance of interaction and community and things like that.
I mean, one thing that kind of, you know, I don't think we should go on about lockdown for too long, but like one thing I did that did strike me pretty quickly was how that not everyone will be like me. You know, not everyone will be happy locked away in a room with the internet and some synthesizers. You know, like people will struggle a lot, and that must be like very, very hard for a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
And in some ways, like, yeah, in some ways I kind of see it as like a kind of advocation for more people to think about having something creative and meaningless to do in times like that, you know. I mean, you know, in some ways, like people can, you know, play games or you know, or take up some sort of craft or whatever. But yeah, I sort of started thinking like, gosh, there must be like loads of people who are literally stuck at home and are just bored to death. Yeah, like it must be like really, really, really hard. And yeah, that kind of bothered me for like a little while, and then I did those started the streams, and to make myself feel better about that, I donated some revenue from the streams to charity for people who maybe trapped at home and have mental health problems or something, and might need some support or something. Because I was just like, oh, not everyone's like me who likes listening to drones for 3 hours on Eurorack. Like, so yeah, but I think, yeah, it's kind of the same here as well. It's maybe starting to, it's all very vague, but it's maybe starting to maybe relax a bit, maybe.
Yeah, so cautiously optimistic is the phrase I keep hearing.
Yeah, right.
Well, this is a wonderful transition to More Kicks Than Friends, the online festivals.
Is it?
Yeah, because this is, I think, you know, one of the nice things that has come out of this is communities have seemed to open up with online, and you know, people are doing more live things, and it seems to me anyway like I can go on YouTube or Twitch and almost always find something interesting happening right now, which I wasn't the case before. Maybe I wasn't looking as much either in the past, but so you've got something cool going on. You want to give us the official rundown? Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I felt the same what you were just saying. That I definitely, when there was this huge boom in streaming when lockdown started, I was the same. I was like, oh right, like people are just going like the extra mile with providing content for people. and some of it was like awful though. Some of it was like, oh my God, how many more Zoom choirs am I going to have to look at? Or how many more Zoom chamber recitals am I going to have to watch? Like, where's all the electronics? And so I kind of just thought, like, I spend a lot of time on Instagram, like scrolling on Instagram, and like, I follow, like, I've got like some hashtags that I like, and they're all mostly to do with music. And I was just sort of scrolling past, and I mean, before the lockdown, I've always kind of enjoyed that sort of top-down wooden table kind of toy-tronica kind of aesthetic that works on Instagram quite nicely. You know, sort of, here's 50 seconds of me tweaking a tape loop I made on a like here's like 20 seconds of me tweaking a tape loop I made on a Walkman running into some boutique. I enjoy that
quite a bit too.
Yeah. And I kind of thought, oh, I wish that like there was like 4 hours of this. And so originally I wanted to pipe everyone in live. I was like, right, I'm good. Because I've actually been doing live streams for like a really long time. Just not as much recently. I think I started on Ustream in like 2010. I remember that. Yeah, I remember some friends of mine, we went through a little phase of like doing live streams, and it was only like 10 people. And I did a bit of internet radio in the like the noughties. And so I've always been like quite a fan of the medium, and it makes perfect sense because everyone's stuck at home. And my mentality was, well, if everyone's stuck at home, then everyone can get their camera out and shoot me 30 minutes of music. So yeah, I started asking people, and I started, I really liked that top-down aesthetic that you see, and you see it in a lot of like make noise videos, and yeah, you know, on like Instagram, this kind of like hands, this soft focus, and like, you know, I was like, oh, it'd be nice to do like a show of that, like full performances. So I kind of contacted a load of people, and they all gave me sets. None of it was like that, but that's okay. And I just thought it would be like one. I really just thought, I'll just do this once. And now I'm doing episode 10 tomorrow.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Somehow, I don't know, it's a mixed bag of me being excited by it enough to hassle people to keep giving me sets, and also people being excited enough that they want to give them to me. So yeah, it's really nice. And it's I don't know how long I'll keep doing it, but it's definitely been good for me personally, just to have something in the calendar, you know, just to sort of wake up on a Monday morning and kind of go, I'm still off work, I still can't leave the house. Right, who can give me 30 minutes of music by Saturday? You know, and so yeah, it's been good, yeah, and the feedback's been really positive, and yeah, it's just it's a really nice way to spend, for me, like to spend a Saturday evening. I realise for some other people it's a Saturday afternoon or a Saturday morning, but yeah, it's kind of like it's sort of like having a little something to look forward to, like, you know, like maybe before streaming came along and before we started binging box sets on Netflix or whatever, like you would actually look forward to watching a show on TV at a certain day, at a certain time, you know, and then people would talk about it the next day, and maybe that's less around these days because people can just consume things when they want. So I am quite into the idea of it being like, it's going to be 8 o'clock every Saturday and people will tune in, as it were. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. And you're coming on next week.
Yeah, I'm scheduled to come on. It's exciting. I think you're right. Like this idea of like having something to look forward to. I've attended a bunch of events that were at a certain time, or even gotten a chance to like present at a few. And it is like it's like going out without all the hassle, like there's no,
it's like a gig. It's like going to a gig.
Yeah, it is. And it's without the dressing up or without the traffic.
Yeah, exactly. Or the pay, or paying for it.
Yeah. I mean, I did one with the New York City Ableton Live user group, and I'm about an hour away from New York City on Long Island, and it's usually like I think a Tuesday night they do it, and I'm always like intent on going to these things, but by the time I get home from work and all right, I settle down, and then I'm going to have to brave into New York City at the height of rush hour. I mean, every month I fail. I get to about like 4:00 when I'd have to leave, and I'm just like, there's just no way I want to sit in traffic for the next 2 hours and come home late just to have to get up early again. But doing and attending the ones that have been happening online has just been great. It's like, do I want to do this in 3 minutes? Of course. Let's
yeah, right. Yeah, I don't have to put any trousers on. I don't have to brush my teeth. It's fine.
Yeah. It is. It's nice. But also, as when you asked me to do it, it was like, okay, let's put something together now. Let's spend some time, and like, I've got things I could fall back on, I guess, that I've kind of done before, but I'm hoping, my plan is, to try to do something a little fresh for me at least. And it's you asking me to do that gave me now like something worth going into the future for. You know what I mean? Like, these days have just all bled into each other, and it's so hard to know what day it is half the time, and yet the weeks fly by. They
do. It's like I think when I even got to week 6 of doing it, I was like, I can't believe that I've somehow managed to get all this material off of people. Now it's week 10 tomorrow, and then I've got people penned in for week 11 and maybe week 12, and a lot of people who I've contacted are really, really into it, but are just too busy. So, but in some ways that's good, because that kind of makes me think, well, that's going to give me a reason to keep going, because there'll be people in the future. My biggest fear is that like I'll run out of people to ask or something, and then I'll have to start going back again, which I've already started doing. In fact, 2 people who are playing tomorrow have already played. I bet there's a lot of people out there willing to do it. And I got to tell you, for me, like I did pretty well with the whole lockdown thing. I felt I was excited to make the most of my time, and also conscious of the fact that if I don't, I might be like in trouble mentally, just floundering away, wasting. It could be very easy to just lay around every day. But towards the end of May, I kind of hit this point where end of May, beginning of June, I really felt like no point to do anything. It just came over me somehow, and I didn't do much of anything, especially musically. And I think going through that, and then like kind of looking in the mirror and like slapping myself in the face, being like, what are you doing? Like, get up, kind of get going thing. And then hearing from you, like, you want to do one of these things, is like, all right, I got something to do now. And I think, oh man, even if it's just a little thing, it's so important to have something to like kind of look forward to. Yeah, a deadline. I think it was the comedian George Burns, right? Am I getting his name right? He was old man by George the time I ever heard of him. 18 Again, I think, was the movie he was in, where he maybe switched bodies. But anyway, I just remember him saying... Did he have a cigar?
What was that?
Did he have a cigar?
Yeah.
Wasn't that part of his thing?
Yeah, exactly.
Old
think
from
it
like
was.
the 50s, 40s, 50s comedian.
Yeah, I'm just Googling. Yeah, George Burns. Okay, I got it right. I mean, he lived to be what? I think nearly 100, if not. But he, no, it was 92. But they asked him, like, how do you keep going? What's the secret? He's like, I always just have a show booked. I always have something booked.
Yeah.
And he said it kept me going. It gave me something to look forward to. It gave me something to like work towards. And I remember that just being like, yeah, that's an important thing. We need something, to look forward to. Cause
Yeah.
I know I got
like,
a
the
taste
thing
of
is
recently where I was just kind of like, what's the point? You get into those, it's easy to slip into those mindsets sometimes, but thanks for asking.
No, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. I mean, like I say, it's just, it's really nice for me to sort of just get to Friday and look at my inbox and start downloading things and kind of look at it. Okay, like, and then I start to like program it and think like, where would this go? Because I've got like a background in putting events on, and so I quite like the process of programming the acts and making everything flow and everything kind of having a dynamic where it kind of gets to a start off kind of interesting listening, low key, understated or something, then sort of bring it up, then maybe have something a little bit bizarre in the middle that's a little bit amusing, and then kind of, okay, let's slam everyone now, and then, okay, go home.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm kind of like following that with all of these streams. And it's nice for me to sort of get all this material and kind of think like, okay, I'll put that there, that can go there, blah, blah, blah. And then think about how I'm going to glue them together. And most of the time I'm just drinking, just talking crap. But I'm also like improvising the music in between the sets, like in real time, whether it's on
that's cool.
stuff over here or I just sort of, I like mostly it's the digitone. I just kind of start something on the digitone, and then throughout the night, I just kind of, it just gets more and more strange, and I just change it and then fade it in between the acts, do a bit of talking. So, in that sense, that's fun to be able to just have that.
Yeah.
Little sort of, and it doesn't matter. Like, I don't care about it. Like, it's just, and then, like I haven't watched that many back. I mostly just check them back to see like if there's a point where I'm like, oh my God, why did I just say that? I kind of check back to see if it's really as cringe as I remember it, and it's fine. But then I listen to some bits and I'm like, oh, that was actually quite good. Why wasn't I paying attention? I should have like, I'm going to maybe steal that or something. But I think like having something booked, like deadlines are healthy things. And also I think that they help in terms of being for a creative person, whether you're an artist or musician or whatever you are. Like the thing about deadlines that I think is quite healthy is that it kind of encourages you to practice this sense of being able to abandon your work and move on to something else, because like I think that as creative people, it's very, very easy to get so invested in something that you love it so much that you actually can't even really finish it to the point where it will be finished and it's ready to be shared with people or delivered. And sometimes you've just got to go. You've just got to kind of have it taken away. Go, right, that your time's up, And you might be thinking, no, wait, I need to, and with that, being able to kind of let go of things and then get excited about what could come next in the future, I think is like quite important. And you won't get that unless you're at someone else's control, I suppose. Like if someone else is there going, I need it by Friday, then
Yeah, it's a lot harder to negotiate with someone else than yourself. You can.
Exactly, because you'll just go, oh, I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah, okay.
I'll do it next week.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll do it in 2025. That's fine.
Yep, I know that all too well. It is a good thing. And the thing to think about it is like whatever it is that you felt was undone or needed to happen, do that in the next thing, get it right the next time with something else. Absolutely. It's very easy to let things get too precious and important, and one way I think to fight that is to just do a lot of things, so that if you're doing maybe like one of these, right? You're doing one online festival, you're probably going to really sweat over that music in between and all the banter and whatever you have to say. But if you're doing them every week, you can have a little fun. You can try something weird. Yeah. And you know what?
Yeah, absolutely. You find a flow and a format, and it all starts to kind of take care of itself in some way. I mean, the format, I have changed the format a little bit. At one point, I did phone some people in because I didn't have enough acts to do. I think I only had 4 acts, and like the first couple, I had like 8 or 10 acts or something, just ridiculous, about 5 hours of music. And then there was one where I only had about 4. And everyone had given me like 25, 30 minutes. And I was like, oh, this is going to be over in 2 hours. Like, how am I going to flesh this out? So I phoned them in, and we had like a little chat afterwards about, what they were doing, what they were using. Yeah. And that kind of made it a little bit more engaging, I think, for the viewer or listener. Because a lot of the times when these things happen, there's a lot of kind of nerdy questions in the chat room, like, what's that synth? What's that synth? What's that synth? And if you don't know, then maybe ask the person who's doing it, But that is, I don't know how quickly I'll do that again, because that's a kind, because that's so live. Like I'm okay being live on my own, but when it's live with other people, I get worried, not for myself, but just for them and for it generally, that like if something goes wrong, how do we recover it if it goes wrong? So it's not painfully embarrassing. Yeah. So I but then if I have another one come along where there's not a huge amount of people involved, then I might bring that back too. But yeah, it's a complete like blank canvas. I'm just saying now, like everyone's just had a blank canvas. Like you just do whatever you want. Like don't take it. Take it seriously, but don't take it seriously. Like don't sweat over it. Just have a good time and like whatever floats your boat in the minute. Capture it. There's no obligation to even really be good. It's just provide the content.
Well, that's a relief.
That's my attitude. Yeah.
It's a good way to approach music on a lot of levels, I think. I don't know if it's like this in all disciplines of art, but music has this like it's like this hipness or something that it has to have, and this intelligence maybe. I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say, but like I know what I'm trying to say, but how to say it. It
like a detachment.
It has to be like cool, and you can get
like
in your
distancing.
head and instead of just like enjoying the exploration of the art form, it has to like, you have to have a leather jacket on or something, and it's
yeah.
I don't know, like if it's like that in other. I'm sure it is on its own level, but it's good to get away from
perhaps
that.
in like fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Or like
painting maybe is like, it's not so much like a live thing, you don't usually watch people paint, or
No, I suppose not.
So it can sort of, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about this. It's just art, but it's nice to get away from that pressure. That it can just be the experience of it.
Yeah, I mean, like I like improvisation myself. I like watching other people do it. I think that everyone should make room for it in anything that they're doing, because it's rewarding for both you as the artist and as the listener. Because it's a unique experience that won't ever happen again. And a lot of stuff I like to talk about on YouTube is motivated by that. Like, don't be afraid to play around and make mistakes, and just don't worry about it. Like, something good will come along, and then when that happens, that's what you've got to grab and go, okay, right, I'm going to make a track out of that now, or something. Or that's how I feel about like performance. That's how I feel about like electronic music performance. And it's like any music really. And that's something I kind of want to encourage to people who I'm asking to give me these sets, is like, there's no obligation to deliver, apart from delivering the content. Like on a kind of like musical artistic level, there's no obligation to deliver. Like, you can just have a good time doing it, like you can just go, right, oh, I don't know what's going to happen, and I think the viewers see that and enjoy it too, I think.
Yeah, I think I've kind of picked up on that in some of your work, where there's this kind of exploring, experimentation thing, where I think I get this maybe like when you're like playing around with some of the devices, especially the glitchier stuff, where it's kind of like I'm doing this, I'm having fun, I'm exploring, experimenting, and maybe something will come out of that I can pull from later. And like kind of like with this ear listening, like to see if anything cool happens while you're doing it.
Certainly.
Yeah, I think that's a fun way to work, and that's I do a lot of that myself really too, where I like to like developing sound packs or just like sounds sometimes, just fooling around and just saying, oh, that was a cool bit, I'll just throw that in a folder. This was something kind of neat. I like the way this instrument sounds right now, I'm going to save it. And I think I do too much of that sometimes, because I don't always get to half of the stuff I make. I bet you're the same with your output too, that you come up with so much stuff that you almost can never get to any of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I do. I have a lot of recordings of just crap that I just put something together, and I was like, okay, I'll just record like 10 minutes of this or something, or 5 minutes of this, and maybe one day I'll go through all of this stuff and salvage the good bits. That day has never come. But that's not the point. The point is that maybe the day will come one day. But also it's just a healthy practice anyway, because you're subconsciously building up your skills along the way, where when a moment comes when you need to do something, you'll be ready to do it because you did it when ago without taking it seriously,
Right.
But yeah, I do like record a lot of stuff like that, and I do have like things like tucked away that maybe might be useful one day, but I strongly doubt it.
That's cool.
I mean, Ableton makes that incredibly easy,
Yeah.
So
it does. I had a conversation with Joseph Holiday, aka Snakes of Russia, who's
I don't know who that is.
He makes cool music, very like dark, cinematic, a lot of modular, stuff.
Okay.
And I think he has this like way of working where he does a lot of experimentation and then goes back and finds the good stuff and starts organizing all that. But he was talking about how he sort of has like a monthly ritual where he organizes his projects by like in folders. This is June, this is July, and all of that, which is something I do too, but I don't ever go back to it really. I just kind of keep going.
Right.
But he goes back, and then from like maybe like a month or two, he can create like an EP out of it. And that's kind of like his workflow, where he collects, makes stuff, and then he gets down to business, which is something I want to try to adopt a little bit more, because there's a lot of junk on my computer. It's sad that it's just there, and hours and nights. I mean, I don't think it's a complete loss, because like you said, you are learning and you're growing and you're trying new things. But I think I know I do anyway. I need to sort of shift my balance a little bit, get my output up.
Yeah, I mean, like, it. Yeah, I hear you on that. I've definitely. I mean, that was kind of my. I sort of mentioned earlier, I've got these kind of more guitar-y based tracks that I'm trying to get off the ground. And as I think I mentioned this earlier, like that kind of approach that you just mentioned was it was very similar. Like my plan was that I would. I mean, there are about sort of 4 or 5 things that are already composed. It's just that I need to get the motivation to nail the take. Yeah. And then I thought I would glue them together with some more up-to-date, for me personally, like kind of experiments, you know, like kind of, this is what I've been experimenting. Here's a product of what I've been experimenting with for the last couple of years or something. And then I thought, because it's pretty much all to do with samples, I thought, well, I'll need some source material. And so I thought that I would create this like library. And I've started, you know, I've got like however many folders of riffs in E or like pinched harmonics or, you know, this is just pick scrapes down the strings or something, you know, so that I could just, when I'm in that kind of frame of mind where I'm like, okay, I'm ready now to just sit down to an empty project and just grab things and go, what can I do with this? Yeah. Because that's what's fun. That's what's always been fun about Ableton, is that it feels like you're just grabbing something and you're just chucking it in a bowl and you're like, right, where's this going to go? You know? Right. And I'm a little bit bored of doing that on YouTube with other people's material. And I thought, I was like, why aren't I doing this with like my own sounds? But it's a 2-part process for me. Like I can't really multitask when it comes to different types of environments. So if I want to record, I kind of really just need to focus on that, get the recordings, and then at a later date, put them into a different environment where I'll then start to do something else. I couldn't handle the idea of like going in, whether it's at home or into a studio, and going, right, okay, put some drums down, put some guitar down. Right now it's in the arranger. Let's do the edits, blah, blah, blah. Because that's just too, I can't really focus in those kind of multi-dimensional ways when it comes to different workflows, you know. I can only really sort of focus on one at a time. So, yeah, that sounds like a really good practice, I think. Just like fiddle around and record a load of stuff, and then another time in a completely different context, in a completely different frame of mind, take what you did and try and make something with it. Like, yeah,
they're very different kinds of thinking. So I think if you're constantly switching, it's very easy to kind of like fall off the cart or fall off the track, and then you kind of lose everything. I get into that all the time, where I'm maybe like really feeling an idea, I'm working on it, I'm building a song, and then like I decide I need a certain sound, and now I'm suddenly crafting sounds, and then I totally forgot the path I was just on of writing the song.
Yeah.
And now I've just spent an hour making like some sort of transitional noise that I don't even know why I'm doing it anymore, because I don't feel the vibe of the song. But when I have some of that stuff ready and I can just drop it in and be like, all right, that was cool. Yeah, I'll just pull this in here and now I can keep going with my thing. Even though I might even go and change it later, but just to have something even as like a little bit of a placeholder to keep me feeling excited about the writing aspect in this case. Yeah, I think we, in this modern day of the music producer where we do everything, we kind of are really vulnerable to that kind of falling off the path that we're on, because you're doing so many different jobs, and when you keep switching, you can lose sight of the big picture. I think it makes it harder to like get lost in things too. That's my favorite thing, is getting lost when I'm doing music or anything, I guess, is like when you like sort of forget you're doing it and hours have gone by. Absolutely. Like all of my favorite tracks of mine personally of when that's happened. And I've listened back, like either when it's finished or a couple of days later, and I was like, what did I make that? Where was I when this happened? I don't remember. How did I, and that's, I guess that's the flow, right? That's what they call the flow. And that's when you sort of, the flow of consciousness, and you're not really thinking, really, you're kind of just doing it. And you do kind of come out of your own brain a little bit. And that's like really gratifying. And those are the ones that I'm the most, in a weird way, those are the ones that I'm the most comfortable with sharing with people, because in some weird way I feel like I had nothing to do with it. Whereas like the stuff that I worked on really, really hard for years, like hours and hours and hours of going through things and like cringing at always the same point and just going, I need to do something about that, and never really quite getting it right. Those are the ones I'm just like, I don't want to play that to someone, because I'm going to be like there going, oh no, I didn't get that bit right, Whereas when things just kind of happen out of nowhere, and because you were lost in music, it's I don't know if that's like a kind of anxiety thing or an ego thing, like like it being sort of not remembering that you did it, not remembering how you did it or your involvement in it, that in some way it's almost like it's someone else's. Mm-hmm. So as a kind of troubled artist, that's easier for you to self-promote, because it's almost like it's someone else's work. Because it's quite hard artists struggle with bigging themselves up, which is why they get managers and stuff like that. So that's an interesting way to look at it. And I think there might be some that's just what I think, only because I can relate to it like so easily. Yeah, sweating the details.
Yeah,
I know when I'm like that, I listen to what I've done a lot differently too, where I'm listening with like the critical head of like, did I get everything right? As opposed to like, if it's something that just kind of happened that I got lost in, I just listen to it in a different mindset of where I'm more like not questioning what's happening in the music and just accepting it. And
you're not like waiting for bits either. You're not like listening out for certain bits, because you're in an anticipation of how that's going to make you feel about whether you pulled it off or not. It's like it's more that you're just kind of you're absorbing yourself in those things that you didn't know were there the first time round when you were creating it, because you don't know where you were. And maybe you weren't even listening. Mm-hmm. You might not have even been listening to what you were doing at the time. And I get that when I like sometimes when I've listened back to recordings of like live gigs where I've been playing with a band, and maybe I had a solo or someone else did, or something happened that I don't remember, and I hear it back and I'm like, what was that? That was amazing. Who did that? And you're not always thinking, you know. And I think like maybe that's to help with the troubled artist who struggles at self-promotion, is that sometimes you just have to not think about what you're doing and just kind of just go blah, 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 okay, goodbye. And then 6 months later, hey, what's this? Oh, this is all right. Yeah, you know. I don't know, maybe.
Making me think that most of the best times and best experiences I've had are when I'm not thinking at all. When you just, I think that's something I chase in a lot of what I do, is that getting lost and not constantly analyzing everything, as we can so easily do.
Yeah, quite.
Just shut that monkey mind up for a minute.
Yeah, totally. And just, let your mind go, man. Or something.
Yeah, it's funny as it sounds, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's one of those things that like sounds corny, but then when it actually happens to you, you're kind of like, oh yeah, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, like there's always like just
especially with music,
critic or referee in your head. It's nice when they get quiet for a minute.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, any plans? You've got this idea for the album of more guitar or songs anyway. I don't know if it's technically an album. What is an album even anymore? But what do you got on the horizon? Anything you're looking forward to?
Right now, well, I started selling some sample packs, and
Errors,
that
right?
was really, yeah, and I really, really enjoyed it, and I found a nice workflow for it, and it's something that I've always wanted to do, is to get more into that, because it's just you know, it's really, it's a nice compromise between being able to do lots of things I like doing and not having to worry about whether it's music or not. You know,
yeah.
So it's like being able to just experiment, play around, record, chop it all up, and then create something that even I could use, or anyone could use, to get ideas going, you know, that will eventually lead to music. It's something that I've been really wanting to get into. And so I'm definitely going to make time for that, because it's a lot of fun. And I want to try and get an album out. So soon maybe. I mean, I did an album in 2015, which at the time that I did it, I wanted to be in 3 parts, like a 3-part trilogy, wow. A holy trinity of music. And so I the one I'm working on would be part 2 of that.
Cool.
So and it's a mixture of apathy, motivation, and just not really getting in the right kind of space. But most of the songs are already written. I just have to get them down, you know. But at the same time, I'm so concerned with things from the first one that I did that I wasn't happy about, that I want to concentrate on to make sure I get right this time, you know. So
okay.
I'm like, yeah, I definitely want to mix it better. I definitely want the snare to sound better, you know. And if, you know, you kind of always have to make these compromises. Like, in some ways, you know, I was talking earlier on about kind of abandoning stuff. And like, I kind of want to contradict myself slightly here with that, because you do kind of sometimes have to make compromises between being in a moment where you're thinking, do I wait until I can make this better, or do I just fuck it off and just move on, you know? And I think on some of the previous tracks, I was a little bit like, at the time, I was a little bit too flippant and too much abandon, and I should have maybe worked on some things a bit longer. and nailed them a little bit better. But the thing is in the time between that and now, I've worked out what I did wrong, and have now gotten to a point where I'm okay. I know now that I won't make that same mistake again. I can get this down this time. But along the way of doing that, it introduces like new problems. So like I wanted to record all the drums myself. On the previous one, they were all like programmed. And on this one, I'm like, I want to play the drums. Right? I don't care if it sounds dreadful. I just want to have one album in my life where I played the drums. And so, but that opens up a whole load of problems. Like, right, how do I mic up the kit? Is my kit even that good? Am I even that good? You know, do I need to use 10 mics? Can I just use one mic, 2 mics? And, you know, I did some recordings. I was renting the studio for a bit, and I had my drum kit there, and I was recording everything, like 3 mics on the snare and all kinds of stuff. And I was listening to this track from it the other day, and I was like, these drums sound awful. And I went and did it again, and I used this, like the Zoom Q8, just that stereo mic coming in from the left-hand side. And it sounded like loads better. And I was like, why does that sound better? Is that because I'm better, because I was better on the drums? I did a better take? Is it because I oversaturated the process with all of these things that I feel like I need to do to make it sound better? Oh, if I want to make the drums sound good, I have to mic everything and then get the perfect. So yeah, it's with solving old problems, new ones come along that have to be solved, and that slows everything down for me. So,
I hear
so
you.
Yeah.
Oh, I've had that experience recording drums, especially.
It's an art form. It's an art form and a science in itself. It's like I don't know how many. I'd say out of all the kind of recording YouTubes I've watched, the ones about drums are the ones I've watched the most of. Because everything else, I'm just kind of like, oh, guitar amps, whatever, just point a mic at it. But drums, I'm a little bit like, oh, but why? How do you do it? How do people do it? And
right,
yeah,
you wind up with so much information too when you have so many mics on it. There's just so much.
Yeah,
sound.
you do. Like phasing, and like, oh my God, that mic I put is like 3 milliseconds later than this mic. And it's like, it's true. Once you line everything up, it sounds brilliant. You know, when everything's all nicely lined up and in phase, the snare mics are in phase, it does make a difference. And maybe that's what I was getting wrong before, you know. So.
It's especially fun when it's just you and you got to go play the drums, then you got to go listen to them, then you got to move them, then you got to go play them, then you got to go.
Then you got to go, yeah, oh my God, that as well. You know, we were talking earlier on about having to multitask different environments. Like, I hated like sitting down at the kit, doing a little warm up, then getting up to press record and play, and then running back, sitting down.
Yeah.
And then you do a shit take. It's like,
yeah, I know.
Yeah,
that's. I have a very meager, humble drum set here. That is mic'd up with just a kick mic, a snare mic, and an overhead. I don't even really have a tom. And I've then got like a couple of tracks in Ableton Live that are, you know, you can like drag like a few tracks into the browser and it becomes like a set that you can just drag into any session. And
yeah,
it's got like whatever EQ and compression that I put on the mic. So it's, you know, it's not perfect and it changes depending on the humidity and the weather and, you know, Mother Nature's magic and the planet's alignment, who knows, right? But it's so nice to have it just to drag into the session and have like at least like a decent sound without having to set everything up and mic everything up. But even with that, it's still, you know, it's a lot of jobs to be doing. Ideally, you'd have like good 3 people involved. Like you might be listening to the recording and recording it, and someone else can move the mics for you, and someone else can play. But yeah.
Well, I mean, I remember the first studio experience I ever had with a band that I was in when we must have been about 19, and we went into this guy's studio, and the amount of time that he spent on getting the drums perfect, it was nearly half a day.
Yeah.
And, and we were all cool with that because we were just so excited, like, just to be in a studio. And it was a good studio. He had a big, like, old SSL. This was in, like, 99. And he was recording to tape back then as well.
Cool.
And so it was a very, like, real kind of rock and roll analog kind of studio. But he was doing it the real 70s way of, like, we're going to get it sounding good before it goes to tape. And then it'll sound good forever on tape. And we didn't know any better. But yeah, he spent a lot of time just moving things, running upstairs, coming back down. No, I've got to go and do it again. And, right at that point where we were starting to get a little bit bored and frustrated that it had been taking 3 or 4 hours, he did a take and it sounded like really good. And so it definitely showed the merit of the pre-production, in that sense, and not thinking like, again, it's those compromises you have to make, isn't it? It's like we don't have to worry about it now; we can make it sound good later, or no, we have to invest the time in making it sound good now. And that's kind of what digital can both provide and take away. And yeah.
I hope that doesn't discourage you.
No. I mean, like, I think probably what will happen is that I think probably what will happen is that I'll get it. I'll wait and let it all boil up in my head, and then I'll probably get them all done in like a weekend. They'll just be like a little click.
Yeah.
And I'll just and then I'll just be like, you know what, I don't care, or it's fine, it'll be fine. I don't know.
Hey, yeah, you'll see. But sometimes it is nice to just bang all that stuff out, just one shot, and live with it.
Yeah, absolutely. But also, what I'm looking forward to, again, to sort of backtrack and talking about abandoning things and looking forward beyond that, is that I'm kind of looking forward to getting it done so that I can get into making new music without having any of these weird criterias and objectives in my head, of just being like, I'm just going to make like whatever now. It doesn't matter. There's no like, I don't have this concept anymore, or these desires to do certain types of things, use certain types of EQ techniques or mic placements, or chop up the guitar this certain way or something. It's just like, I don't care. What have I got today? Okay, let's just do something with this.
You got to clean the slate. Just
clean the slate. Exactly. Yeah. So
nice. Hey, that sounds cool. I wish you luck.
Thank you. And I wish you luck too.
Thank you. Yeah, right. This stuff is supposed to be fun. It's so difficult.
Well, yeah.
It wouldn't be fun if it wasn't difficult, though. That's what I think we got to remember.
There's fun, there's difficult, and there's rewarding, and they're all kind of connected, aren't they? So,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Very true. Wise words.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm excited to send you a performance within the next week. And where do you like to send people? Is YouTube the kind of hub for where you do your work?
I guess so, yeah.
You also have like the link tree.
Well, I guess it depends. If you want music, then there's my Bandcamp, or if you want, music production content, then it's YouTube.
And that's / Mr. Ned Rush, correct?
I think it's just Ned Rush now.
Is it? Okay.
I think I maybe did something, I changed the URL some time ago. So.
Cool. And I would also recommend that people check out the stuff you've got at Isotonik Studios.
Oh yes, of course. I keep forgetting.
Yeah, lots of really cool.
I forgot to plug that.
Yeah, lots of great devices, including the World collection that we spoke about, which is the video stuff. Some fun effects, knob twiddling stuff, which is cool.
Yeah, I make a lot of like crazy
a lot of glitchy. If you're into
sound,
that,
yes,
I think.
Percussive sound design, glitch beats, beat texture processors, and I like that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Sample manipulators, and
I think of that a lot. I think of the video stuff, but I also think of like glitch, break beats, manipulation stuff when I think of your work.
yeah, like I mean, that's always been my thing, is like that sort of jungle electroacoustic music, kind of where they meet,
Right.
kind of musique concrète, and also that sort of hip hop thing of like sampling the breaks, and that's kind of where it's all taken me on my journey. It started with that, and
I'm excited to
led
hear
all
what you
kinds
wind
of
up
other
doing
things.
with the guitar and seeing how that all connects. You're going sort of back to your beginnings and bringing that in. So I think that's going to be pretty interesting too. I'm excited for that.
I hope so. Yeah, I mean, I've got some things that I've done that I'm excited about, to the point where I'm feeling like I really want to push that, and just like a few ideas, but as simple as the ideas are, the application and what can come out is quite like broad, in terms of blurring the lines. Like I've always kind of quite liked the blurring of the lines between, was something performed by a human being, was this manipulated in a computer, I quite enjoy that in electronic music, and I guess that's that kind of electroacoustic kind of approach, I suppose, of taking real worldly things and somehow making them unworldly. And I subscribe to that.
Right. That's fun too, because it's a little mysterious. Sometimes when you understand exactly how something happens, it takes a little bit of the magic away, maybe.
Yes.
So
well, I've been criticized for that as well on YouTube, for people saying like, I thought this was, or rather just like, I thought that this was some really difficult thing to do, and it's not. You've demystified Aphex Twin,
right,
or something, whatever. Well, I don't know, maybe whatever. But I at first I kind of, I mean, in some ways that was kind of my motivation to make videos, was to say to people, like, please don't waste time doing stuff a certain way when you can do it this way in 5 minutes, and that's always been a thing for me, is to sort of just put people at ease, especially like people who are starting out, and they want to do stuff, they want to do a certain type of thing, but they're maybe a little bit intimidated by having to learn all the approaches and all the techniques. And I'm just kind of like, it's actually not that hard. You just do this,
Yeah, and that's cool, because that opens up the door for people that are new to it. Like if you're going to go and actually try to edit every single little like crazy little glitchy noise and weird thing that happens in some of these tracks, like for one, like, I don't know how much fun you're going to have. And it takes a long time before it ever starts to even sound like anything. I think it's a lot more fun to have some sort of process, let it kind of do its thing and pick what's cool.
I think
and
so,
that's
yeah.
still hard though. Like that's the funny thing, is like, even with everything we have and all the techniques and weird devices you can get, like, still putting together like an interesting piece of music is difficult. I mean, if it doesn't like come to you through some miracle force, through playing the guitar or playing the piano or whatever you play, or maybe you don't at all, then it is quite difficult sometimes. I can't imagine, the stress, what, like, people who actually have to do it professionally, freelance composers who are like, we need 30 minutes of music in 2 weeks,
and all this sort of stuff, and how that they can just sort of go off and do it and not get stressed about that. It's like, it's amazing that. In fact, I was watching just earlier before we started this. I was watching The Gallery on Disney Plus about the Mandalorian, and they've got an episode about the guy who composed the music, and I didn't know who he was until today, but it turns out he's worked on a lot of other things, and I was just kind of pretty excited because he had like loads of like Eurorack in his studio and was talking about how he'd been using Eurorack to do some of the sound effects, but also just to kind of like just to be refreshed about some of the music in the Mandalorian, and also the approach that he took was just really nice because it and he's really young as well. I guess he's maybe in his, I don't know, maybe late 20s, early 30s or something. And the sensibility that he took to it, it was just really refreshing to sort of see someone taking a real compositional approach to like a contemporary piece of like television music, rather than just using like idents or textures or, like it's like he wrote like a theme tune. There's a recognizable theme tune to it that you can sing. And, it's not just like a kind of a light bulb flying over some text and a kind of bong, There's an actual intro and an outro. And it's just really nice because I love like film and TV music, and I've been this kind of I've been moaning to people for years about how the kind of the 20th century television composer is long gone. We're not going to see anyone like that again for a long time, and soon it'll be the same with film composers. And like when was, name like a film soundtrack that of the last 20 years that you can whistle or something like that. So to find out about this these things that he was doing was really good. I don't know why we got onto this. Sorry.
It's no problem.
I said I'd ramble.
Well, I told you that was okay, if you remember. This show is a rambling show sometimes. It's all right.
Okay. I can't remember why I got onto that guy. But yeah.
That's cool. It's something to check out. I'm not familiar with it, so that's all new stuff for me.
The show or
any of it. I wrote it down, The Mandalorian. I don't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you like Star Wars, it's pretty good. If you don't like Star Wars, it's still pretty good, I think. But the music's like really great.
Was that the movie? The one of the
No, it was the TV show. It was the TV show.
Oh, okay. I didn't watch any of that. Yeah. I remember my nephews are huge into Star Wars, and they were talking about that at the time. But no, I didn't see that. So okay, that's cool.
It's worth watching. The music's really good.
Things I've gotten into to watch lately have to do because of the soundtracks, and like interesting composers working on it, or
it does make a difference for me too. Yeah,
because even if it sucks, at least you got something.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I mean, I don't know. There was that chap who passed away. What was his name? He did the Arrival. Johan Johansson.
Yeah.
And he was kind of the last person sort of in a contemporary time that I heard that I was like, oh yeah, he knows what he's doing, But generally, I don't know. I haven't really, I don't know if I'm just not listening or just not paying attention, but I do get excited when good composers come along and sort of sit down and write music that's to do with themes and moods and stuff like that, like stuff that I think is kind of maybe a bit old school composition. I enjoy all that sort of stuff.
Nice. Yeah, cool. Well, listen, been really nice talking to you. And
okay, yes, it's been very nice talking to you as well.
It's nice to get to meet you, really, I guess. Been so long watching you do your work and kind of bumping off each other's shoulders every now and again in the pinball machine of the internet.
Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, as we gave out some links, youtube.com/Ned Rush. There's a lot of great stuff, and it's deep too, which is fun about what you do. It's usually a deep dive. It's not always jump cutty filler, but it's also entertaining too. So there's
oh my God, don't get me started on the jump cut thing. like oh my God, I hate that so much. Like, why can't people just learn a script? Why can't you just learn your script and read it into the camera? It makes it look really insincere. It makes it look like, which is funny because this is exactly what we've been talking about in music production. It sounds like that they've just talked a load of crap and snipped out the good bits, which is basically what we've been saying about music.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it kind of, I can't really get into that.
It can be intense. I have to be honest though, I did a video yesterday that was the most jump cutty thing I've ever done because I was trying to make it a 2-minute video, 2-minute Ableton Live tip.
Okay.
So
I won't judge you.
It's okay. I was judging myself. But it was for the best of that video because I had a lot of extra crap I didn't need, little commentaries. I don't usually do a script. I might have like an outline, but
yeah.
I tend to just go for it. So,
yeah,
for better or for worse, I don't think I would ever do it if I had to script it out too much. I would just never get anything done.
Well, also to kind of contradict myself again, a script can also in itself sound quite insincere.
Yeah.
But I don't understand why people like it. It seems to me that it was a thing that people didn't realize that they were doing, that somehow became stylistically normalized, that it's now what people expect when they watch an informative or critical or vloggy YouTube video, which is to get that kind of highly compressed information, all this short attention span stuff, which I don't believe at all. I don't believe people have short attention spans now. I think it's just people think that they do because they've been consuming too much short attention span media. Like we've just done 2 hours and it's fine. I'm not bored. So,
I'm going to cut out everything and it'll be about 40 minutes when we're done. We'll cut out every
cut
breath.
It down to 10 minutes. Yeah, like I just don't know why people don't just kind of cut away to something. Cut away to like a picture or something. Why like cut in the middle of a? It's like it's terribly unprofessional, but it's stylistically normal now in YouTube land.
Is there a software for that? I must imagine there's something where you can.
I wonder if it's Audition, because in Audition you can automatically remove silence.
Yeah.
Audition will analyze the file, and you can tell. This is very nerdy.
Okay.
You can tell Audition that like if there's a silence for more than half a second or more than a second, highlight it, and then it will analyze the file, highlight it, and then you can just go delete, and it will delete all those silences and move everything back together. And I think people, because you can do that with video as well, I think that might be what they're doing.
I was thinking about that yesterday because it was like a real chore, honestly. The video needed it, but it was like, oh, okay, because I had this like 2-minute mark I really wanted to hit, which I went over anyway. But I was thinking like there's got to be like a plug-in, or I do all my video editing in ScreenFlow, the same software I use.
Oh, right.
I'm not into that. I bought Final Cut.
It's a good program.
It's great for what I do. It does almost everything I need it to do. It's rare that I'm like missing anything.
Yeah.
But I was wondering if there was something where you can just kind of like automate that, because it is like a very tedious job that I'm really just doing it by waveforms anyway. So why can't the machine?
Yeah. You know what? You've kind of got me thinking, because I just thought that people were doing it on purpose just to look cool. I honestly thought that people did that to make their video look cool.
I wonder if it's kind of like almost like misuse of a compressor sometimes, where maybe people's settings are just a little off, and that's why it's brutally.
Yeah, maybe that's like I mean that's kind of like stylization saturation in a way, isn't it? Like things happen accidentally. People people cotton onto it, and they don't really understand it, but then it just happens everywhere, and then it becomes a normal thing. It gets saturated, and there's a micro thesis in there somewhere, I think.
Yes, there is. how the technology quirks change the media,
how things absolutely. Very interesting.
Maybe we'll let people think about that for a while now.
Yes.
So I'll say thanks for listening, everybody. And any last words, or are we good to go? What do you think?
Thanks.
Cool. Yeah, and check out these videos, as we said. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.